In this lesson, I'll take the images I've exported out of Autodesk Sketchbook Pro and bring them into Autodesk Maya so I can use them as textures on planes for setting up my storyboard animatic. Then I can fly a camera through and bring my boards to life in both depth and animation from the correct camera perspective. I'll go over to Maya and start out with my planes. In Maya, to make it easier, sometimes I'll hide my display a little bit. I'll choose Display, UI Elements, and Hide All. Then I'll bring back on, under Display UI Elements, my status line. Control A brings back and forth my channel box and attributes. That's good for now. To begin, I'll press and hold the hotbox and choose Maya Front View, and also F3 for polygons. Then I'll hold Shift and right-click to bring up the marking menu for creation. I'll choose a polyplane and click and drag a polyplane in the view, hitting 5 to shade it. I also like to turn off my grid so it's a little bit easier to see. Now you're probably wondering, how big do you make the polyplane? I'm going to go back to Sketchbook Pro for a second and explain. In Sketchbook Pro, under File, Page Setup, I had made these original pages 16 by 9. Really, I care about the 16 by 9, not the 4 by 7.11. In Maya then, as long as my planes are 16 by 9, the images will go on correctly without stretching. To put the materials on, I'll right-click on the plane and choose Assign New Material. In the Assign New Material dialog, I'll pick Lambert. The first thing I do with a material is name it. This one will be my sky, so I'll name it SBE, Storyboard Element, Sky. I'll click on the Texture node next to the color and choose File. In the File, I'll click on the File folder and browse over to my source images, where Maya goes already because I set the project there. And I'll choose the Sky PNG. I'll hit Open, and as long as I hit 6 in the view, I should see my sky displaying cleanly. I'm ready to clone this and start making other materials, with one more little tweak. It's not quite showing my sky right. Something is amiss in the sizing. With the plane selected, I'll go back to the Polyplane 1 tab, and under Create UVs, instead of Normalize and Preserve Aspect Ratio, I'll drop down and pick Normalization off. There's my sky fitted nicely in that 16 by 9. Now I'm ready to clone and make new materials. I'll hold Alt and the mouse wheel and pan over, zoom out, pick the plane and hit W for move. I'll press Control D to duplicate and slide this one over, then pressing Shift D a few more times to make 6 or 7 clones. I'm ready for new materials. On the second plane, I'll right-click and assign a new material, choosing a Lambert again. I'll call this one SBE City Skyline Far. This will be my Far City Skyline. I'll click on the Texture node next to the color swatch and choose File. In the File dialog, I'll browse over to my Source Images folder and I'll choose my Skyline Far image. As long as the alpha channel is saved correctly, it should come in automatically. What Maya does then is it brings that image into color and the alpha channel in the transparency, knocking out what is above my city, leaving it clear. I'm going to repeat this process through all of my planes, so I'm set up and ready to bring my cameras in. One last tweak to do. I'd like to have this be incandescent by itself. I'll take care of this in the Hypershade. Choosing Window, Rendering Editors, Hypershade. In the Hypershade, there's my materials I've made so far. I'll right-click on the city skyline and choose Graph Network. In the graph, what we can see by selecting the connections and highlighting them is that this image is loaded in the color and the transparency. With the mouse wheel, I'll click and drag from the file across to the material, and I'll choose Incandescence. Now the file is self-illuminated by itself. So We can see here it is lit in those grayscales. This way, this map is instancing. We're using the same map in multiple places, so that when I render, this doesn't need lighting. These will look fine without any additional shading or shadow. Now I'm ready to make the rest of my materials. I'll do that and move on to the next step of animation.